Hey guys, welcome back for another episode of The Suited Shootist. And so before I jump into today's video, again, for the new subscribers, welcome to the channel. Thrilled to have you guys here. I do really appreciate all the support. If you haven't joined the Facebook group already, I strongly recommend that you do. We've got a bunch of great conversation going on in there, specifically about elevating your wardrobe, finding ways to kind of balance and rectify your clothing along with your concealed carry gear, and a ton of conversation like that. In addition, if you're getting a lot of mileage out of the channel and you want to support it directly, I'd greatly appreciate if you joined the Patreon as well. Not only do we have a Discord server where we can have some discussions on some more sensitive topics, but we'll do monthly live streams, I do some giveaways. There's a ton of great stuff that I offer just for my patrons, and I did recently add a $1 tier as well. So if you want to join in for all that, please, by all means, I greatly appreciate all the support. And now I want to kind of jump into today's video. As the title suggests, and I know this is probably going to, if not ruffle a few feathers, then at least probably draw a little bit of crap, I have been playing a lot more with my J-frame, and I'm more and more leaning towards it as one of my preferred dress clothes options. And it's not necessarily for the reasons that you'd think. Now, I know like Cecil Birch did a great post on why he tends to favor a J-frame carried on an ankle when he at least is kind of going about routines that mirror his 9-to-5 day job. And I'll include a link to that post down in the description below. And there's definitely some good points to it. Personally, I am not the biggest fan of ankle carry, but I haven't spent a ton of time with it either. I will say that for the most part, I've found that typically keeping things around waist level, either inside the waistband or in a hip pocket, at least for everything that I've encountered so far, is I've been able to make it work. So then why is it that I like the idea of the J-frame for dress carry? Because if you've seen any of my previous videos, I've talked about how my Glock 19 on the Filster Enigma works great for suit carry, which is true. There are some exceptions. Or if I need something super ultra discreet, then my little 32 Kel-Tec in a pocket is typically what I go to, which is also still true. There's two main reasons. Number one is that if I do need a more discreet gun than my Glock 19, which sometimes is still a requirement, the sights on my J-frame are dramatically better than the factory sights on the Kel-Tec. Now, I've been talking with Les Kiss Martoni a little bit, and I am debating sending the slide off and getting it milled for a set of actual functional iron sights. We'll see. Jury's still out on that one. But in their factory configurations, the sights on my J-frame are dramatically better than the ones on the P32. And there's going to be those folks that say, oh, well, at the defensive distances that you're going to be using them, you're not really going to be using your sights. The counter-robbery class that I took with Darryl Bolke, we weren't shooting out past 5 yards, and we were still using sights every single press of the trigger. I will go into that in a little bit more depth when I do the AARs of those, which are coming, I promise, but I want to make sure I'm actually collecting my thoughts and doing both that and the Green Ops Combatives class, the appropriate justice. So that's going to take a little more thought to make sure that I hit all the points that I took away from those classes. Without getting too far sidetracked. Sights on the J-frame better than the sights on the 32. The other piece of the equation is that I'm not going to go into kind of ballistic capability, because for all intents and purposes, the 7 rounds of 32 ball versus 5 rounds of 38 wad cutter, the pros and the cons of each in my mind kind of balance each other out. So they're kind of on an even playing field when it comes to terminal effectiveness. But in really fitted clothing, that 32 in the pocket shield number one, is still a little bit bumpy, and secondarily, in really fitted pockets. Now, I don't have it in this pocket, but it can still take a little bit of effort to actually get your hand down in that pocket to get the gun out. If you make the proper timing decisions, it's not necessarily a huge deal, but it's still a factor. But the other big reason is this. On the J-frame, especially with the grips that I have on it, there's not a sharp edge on this thing. I mean, I could quite literally run this, like rub my face across this thing and suffer zero ill effect. There is not a single sharp corner that exists on this. Now, and that's to include even the grip texture is smooth. Now you're saying, well, doesn't that impact your grip? Again, I'll get into it when I do the counter-robbery AAR, but the way this grip is profiled, once you get a good grip on it, it's really not going anywhere. So I'll touch on that a little bit more in the AAR, but really the main reason that I like that is it's a lot easier on my clothing. When I went to TACCon, I had my Glock 19 and my Enigma, and I had my dress shirt tucked in behind it, and I had my vest over top of it. And let me tell you, just one day of that stock Gen 5 texture rubbing up against one of my my custom shirts was enough to actually start pilling the fabric. And that was only wearing it for that 8 hours of that day. So, now, yes, there's going to be the debates of, well, I should prioritize the longevity of my defensive gear more so than the longevity of my clothing. But especially for my lifestyle, I want both. So I'm going to make the appropriate considerations to have everything be workable. And especially in more formal environments, if I am wearing, my nice designer Italian stuff or my custom stuff, in those settings, the overall risk threshold is already considerably lower. And so, if that just happens to be the day and, I have to wind up fighting in my expensive clothing, at that point, I'm not going to worry about it. But given the fact that I am going to be carrying guns in that clothing a whole lot more than I'm going to be fighting in that clothing, I don't want to wear any of this stuff out prematurely. So that's one of those big takeaways. And I know that for a lot of people, myself included, one of the kind of lamentations of the appendix carry crowd is that you wear holes in your shirts in this area pretty consistently whenever you're carrying a semi-auto, especially one with an optic, because you've got a whole bunch of right angles and hard corners on that stuff. So, for me, this is quickly becoming kind of my tuxedo gun. I, for a long time, had what I called my tuxedo gun, and it was just because it was pretty. It was a two-tone SIG P6 West German. It was beautiful. Slim, but I never actually carried the thing. Wound up selling it to a buddy of mine. But this is a great option that is not going to tear the ever-loving crap out of my clothes. And truth be told, this definitely falls into the category of one of those getting out of trouble guns, where this is not a fighting handgun. It is a react to contact and get me out of a situation handgun. And if I'm in a circumstance where I am going to a formal event, I am less concerned with the 8 terrorists kicking in the doors, like you see at the end of the first season of The Unit, and far more concerned with, a kind of stereotypical parking lot stick-up, which this is perfectly suited for. So this is probably going to get an Enigma at some point, because you can see the discrete carry clip is that I've got on, which is just the Mod 4, is not quite discrete enough to actually ride behind the belt. But But aside from that, that's probably the only modification this is going to get. Or I might wind up grabbing another Enigma for it, because that's really is kind of the best of everything. That's kind of where I'm at with this. It's still a work in progress, still experimenting. But let me know, do you guys have different methods of carry? Do you have a tuxedo gun? Do you have anything that you pick if you need something that is more forgiving or not? I'd love to hear it. Put it down in the comments. And aside from that, I hope everybody has a great week. Stay dangerous and stay sharp.